What would you say science fiction films are about? Advanced technologies? Possible futures? This is what I think they're about. Humanity. More so than any other genre, sci-fi allows us to distill what it really means to be human. Two of the best science fiction films of recent years are Christopher Nolan's Interstellar and Denis Villeneuve's Arrival. In Arrival, the appearance of 12 floating spacecraft in various locations around the globe sends the superpowers of the world into a heightened state of security. The story follows linguistics professor Louise Banks, played by Amy Adams, who is called on to try and decipher the communications and thus the intentions of the heptapods, the seven-legged alien race which board the spacecraft. Interstellar is set in a world where blight and dust storms have meant that the Earth is slowly becoming inhabitable for humans. The story follows former NASA pilot Cooper, played by Matthew McConaughey, as he leaves his family on Earth to travel through a wormhole created by the mysterious beings to find a new home for mankind. Arrival and Interstellar share the same basic premise, which is that a more advanced civilization helps mankind to overcome a threat that challenges their very existence. A key element of both films is the notion that the advanced beings are of higher dimensions, that they have access to time. In the words of Professor Brand,
they are beings of 5 dimensions. Right? To them, time might be another physical dimension. To them, the past might be a canyon that they can climb into, and the future, a mountain they can climb up, but to us, it's not, okay?
This notion of time being non-linear influences each film. The language that the heptapods used is expressed through non-linear circular writings. The space station which Coop and the other astronauts board is shaped like the face of a watch with 12 distinct sections. Arrival is about communication. Interstellar is about gravity. This key difference defines how the beings of each film help mankind to access time. In Interstellar, the beings guide Coop into a black hole where they allow him to temporarily access a specific location, his daughter's bedroom, throughout her entire lifetime. He's then able to communicate with her through gravity. Gravity is used because scientifically it can pass through time. But the execution feels clunky, and the film's ending leaves us with more questions than answers, and not in a good way. It doesn't solve the time travel problem that all stories of this kind are susceptible to. Here's what I mean. Why didn't Coop just communicate more information to his daughter, like, don't go onto the planet with the mountains because they're actually waves? Maybe then this guy could have been saved. Or better yet, skip the whole Find a New Earth mission and just send Coop directly into the black hole with TARS. Also, why are you in this film? This kind of issue can be problematic for any story that involves time travel. Arrival doesn't just manage to avoid raising these types of questions, it does one better. It uses this issue as the basis for the climax of the film. There is a theory, commonly known as the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, which argues that, at the very least, the language you use affects how you experience reality. Arrival uses a non-linear structure to allow the audience to get a subjective view of how the protagonist experiences reality. It's executed brilliantly. In fact, the only other film that I can think of that uses a non-linear structure in quite the same way is Memento, a film which, ironically, was written and directed by Christopher Nolan. In Memento, the story is told from 2 threads of the same string. One runs forwards, the other backwards. In Memento, the protagonist suffers from antegrade amnesia and so can't form new memories. By having one of the threads run backwards, it forces the audience to get a similar experience of reality. In other words, the audience doesn't know where the character's just been either. Arrival uses a similar trick. At the beginning of Arrival, we see a montage of Louise's daughter, from when she is born to the point where she dies of an incurable disease. Initially, we assume that the events of the montage occur in the past, since they play at the beginning of the film. It's only at the end of the film do we realise that these events are yet to come. Through an exaggeration of the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, when Louise learns the language of the heptapods, it changes the way she experiences reality. It allows her to access time. When Louise gains the ability to see through time, she learns that if she has a child, that child would die before reaching adulthood. The film's brilliance is to take the issues that can plague all stories involving time travel and use it to form the basis of the climatic dilemma. Should she still have her child even though that she knows that her daughter would die before reaching adulthood? Not an easy decision, and that's exactly why it's an interesting one. In his book Story, Robert McKee says that a choice between good and evil, or between right and wrong, is no choice at all. But a choice where there is no clear right or wrong answer makes for a gripping story. So instead of hearing,
Love is the one thing we're capable of perceiving that transcends dimensions of time and space,
we get to understand that through the choices made by the characters in Arrival. Cooper is never forced to make a choice in Interstellar which is as hard to make as the one Louise makes in Arrival. It should be noted that the reason why Arrival's ending is so satisfying is partly down to Interstellar and Christopher Nolan. Interstellar was released 2 years before Arrival, and when it came out, it forced the filmmakers of Arrival to change their original ending because it was too similar to what Interstellar had done. I don't think Interstellar is a bad film. Far from it. Interstellar is a great, great film. I rewatched it recently and I was reminded of how great it is. There are many things which it does better than Arrival, better than most other films in fact. The visuals are spectacular, a willingness to shoot most things in camera, careful placement of CGI, and Hoyte van Hoytema's handheld IMAX-wielding cinematography helps to create stunning visuals which are beautiful, tasteful, and scientifically accurate too. Alongside this, Hans Zimmer's score helps to elevate scenes to become true cinematic masterpieces. And with all Nolan films, there's an overall feeling of quality. A professional touch that only becomes apparent when you view other, lesser films. No one else comes close in that regard.